Good morning, scallywags. Spoo here with another mindless drivel, and we're outside tonight because we're talking about something spooky. Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah, in all actuality, I just, felt like sitting outside tonight, where it's hot and humid, and I'll probably be sweating my butt off, and the lighting is terrible, and you probably hear the air conditioner and crickets and stuff in the background, but oh well. Anyway, today's video is basically there is a supposed plot leak for Spider-Man Far From Home that has made its way to the internet, and, well, today I'm going to share it with you. Now, as this is an internet leak, take it with a grain of salt because it may not be, real. However, this does come from a source that gave a plot detail for Avengers Endgame and also Game of Thrones, and they were pretty much spot on. So there's a fairly good chance that this is legit. So if you don't wish to potentially have, Spider-Man Far From Home spoiled for you or anything, then, well, here's your typical disclaimer for spoiler warnings, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, without further ado, that's my boy Blue. Here we go! So the movie kicks off immediately after the events of Avengers Endgame. We have Happy Hogan and Peter Parker and Aunt May. They're on a private jet flying home after attending Tony's funeral. Of course, as you would imagine, everyone's pretty bummed out, especially Peter. But Happy says that Tony sacrificed himself knowing that there are others out there that could continue the fight. And that if there was anybody out there that Tony felt could be a successor to him, it would be Peter. After the flight, the three of them go their separate ways. However, Aunt May reminds Peter that they have a charity event that night to attend. That would be the charity event we've seen in the trailer. And she sort of reiterates what Happy had said on the plane about how Peter, has these abilities and can continue the fight, and that he's doing the right thing, and Tony would be proud of him. And just before she leaves, she jokingly tells him, "You don't have to be Iron Man, but you do have to be Spider-Man tonight." At the charity event. That's in the trailer. I don't know, it sounded funnier in my head before I said it. From here, we kind of fast forward to the charity event that night. We kind of see, what we've seen in the trailer there, where Peter suddenly realizes that something's happening between Aunt May and Happy Hogan, and don't know if this has maybe been going on for the last, the 5 years, because remember, this is all taking place in 2023 now. But potentially, we could get a one-shot at some point, those little shorts that they release every once in a while that will show the 5-year blooming romance between Happy Hogan and Aunt May. And if you really want to creep yourself out, just imagine the comic book version of Aunt May in that scenario. Ugh. So after the charity event has all kind of wrapped up, we see the scene from the trailer where Peter gets a call from Nick Fury. And of course he's not ready to take that call because, well, that life is just a little too intimidating for him. As Samuel L. Jackson, he is pretty intimidating. I'll give you that. So he ignores the call and he goes on out to his nightly patrols. Now the plot breakdown isn't really clear as to some of the not so exciting scenes that take place in between all of this. But at some point in time, we do establish that Peter will be taking a class trip over to Europe. And while he's out on his patrols, he actually informs the police that he's going on vacation. After this, he then stops by and visits an Iron Man memorial, which is another scene we've seen from the trailer, where he actually starts to feel that he's not really cut out for this job. Not the superhero life, just really, it's too big for him. And it kind of harkens back to the whole Spider-Man 2, where he starts having doubts about, should he be doing this type of thing, which of course is a callback to, the old comics as well, where, Peter put the suit in the dumpster, that type of thing. But basically, we're just laying the seeds of doubt in his mind, and this is something that will definitely play out over the course of this movie, so more to come. So all in all, Peter decides that he's actually going to go on this vacation and leave his Spider-Man suit behind. He's just Peter going on vacation. Spider-Man is staying at home, and kind of giving him some time to reflect and decide whether or not he wants to actually continue this life at all. But Aunt May packs a suit for him anyway, unbeknownst to Peter, so convenient plot point. We then cut to a short scene with some shady-looking European guys, and they're kind of talking amongst themselves, all shrouded in darkness and everything, saying, "Our time has finally come, the spider will meet his end." Now, we don't know if this is a callback to the end of Homecoming, where Vulture goes to prison and meets up with the guy that would become Scorpion, Matt Gargan. I think that is that his name? Let me know in the comments below. Or if this is something that's actually a multiverse thing, where in some other Earth, you know, these guys have already fought Spider-Man and lost, and so now they're looking for vengeance. I only throw that little theory out there because, as we've seen in the second trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio claims to be from another Earth, so we're definitely diving into that whole multiverse thing. Be sure to watch my video on why Endgame kinda sucked to see what I had to say about multiverse. So Peter's class arrives in Venice, and Ned mentions that their flight was one of the very first flights to be back out in the skies. Apparently all flights shut down for that 5-year gap that, you know, half the world was gone. So, you know, getting in touch with loved ones that may or may not still exist must have really sucked. However, they do take the time to address the question that's been on a lot of people's minds about, did Peter's entire class get dusted? Because Ned mentions how weird it is that one of their former classmates is now in college and is a professional model. So no, not all of his class got dusted, just the important ones. But anyway, they get to a hotel and they are watching the news report that's playing on television. And we get our first glimpse at Mysterio as he is fighting a beast of some sort. It doesn't say exactly what he's fighting here, just that he's fighting a creature near London's Tower Bridge. So I'm not sure if this is maybe the clip from the trailer that we've seen where he's fighting the big water guy, or Hydro Man as he's known in the comic books. I don't think it's going to actually be Hydro Man here because of where this plot leak goes, and we'll get there, but that's what he's based off of at the very least. So of course they all start kind of asking, you know, well, who is this guy? He must be a new Avenger because, you know, he's obviously very powerful, he's obviously a superhero, and he's obviously no one we've ever seen before. Afterward, Peter and Ned make their way up to their room, and this is where we get the scene from the trailer where Nick Fury shoots Ned in the back of the neck with the tranq dart and tries to recruit Peter for a mission. After having ghosted Nick Fury on numerous phone calls, however, Peter is now making up excuse after excuse after excuse as to why he can't do a mission right now. And he finally comes down to the excuse of, I don't have a suit. And this is where Nick Fury says, well, you're definitely out of excuses then, kid, because, well, you got one. Now, it does not clarify here whether or not he's talking about the suit that Aunt May packed for him, or if he's talking about the stealth suit that we've seen from the trailers. But either way, Nick Fury then takes Spider-Man down to a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. base where he meets Mysterio. This, of course, is yet another scene from the trailer where Mysterio explains that he's from another Earth. Maria Hill actually tries to explain to Peter what this all means, but Peter interrupts her and says he knows all about string theory and the multiverse and all of the, you know, science things, which is a nice little nod to Peter and, you know, how he's got, you know, he's a science kid. After this, Peter and Mysterio actually go off to Germany on this little mission of theirs, and they meet up with another of the elementals. Now, I believe that this time it's actually the lava guy. I don't know what lava guy's name is, so henceforth I dub the lava guy. And Peter spends most of the fight actually playing defensive and getting his butt handed to him, all while watching Mysterio just take this thing on essentially by himself. Which actually adds more doubt into Peter because he's basically feeling, you know, completely useless next to this guy with all of these powers that's just dropping these elemental creatures one after another. While Peter is just basically completely powerless, you know, I shoot webs and things. What am I going to do against a giant lava guy? So now, feeling very defeated, Peter and Mysterio actually go to, well, Peter's feeling defeated. Mysterio's actually, you know, feeling pretty good. They go to a bar together, and Peter kind of asks Mysterio, you know, how are you landing hit after hit, and just everything that I do isn't amounting to anything. Mysterio explains to him, well, you know, I am from another world, and I know all the tricks, and I've got control over my powers, and, you know, you might not have these kind of, you know, beam blast power things that, you know, that I have. And these are all very technical terms from the comics, by the way. Beam blast things, the lava guy, all of these, very, very technical. And essentially that he just has the confidence that Peter doesn't have. But Mysterio basically takes on kind of a father figure type of role for Peter here at this point, and he basically tells him, you know, kind of playing off of the whole great power, great responsibility, that whole spiel, that there's other people out there that can do this thing. So if he doesn't feel like he can be a superhero, he doesn't have to be a superhero. So it's almost kind of like the reverse psychology method of saying, with great power comes great responsibility. By basically saying, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. In fact, he even goes as far as to say that, you know, as long as Peter has friends and loved ones and, you know, things like that, he's always going to be putting their lives in danger. And he's always going to get people hurt or get himself hurt by losing people he cares about. And that maybe he should just leave it to people like him, like Mysterio, people that have nothing to lose. About this time, the giant lava guy actually attacks an amusement park that just happens to be where MJ and the rest of the class are all at having a good time. Now, we've seen in the trailer the scene where Happy is saying, you know, get to the jet, and then the jet explodes. I'm not sure if this is the same scene because it seems like this amusement park scene happens at night, so I'm not 100% certain on timing and, well, no, just timing. Anyway, amidst this attack, MJ actually almost dies, and of course Peter enters the fight, and this is kind of where he starts to realize that something's not quite right. Because at some point in time during the fight, his webs actually grab hold of part of the lava guy and pulls off a metal panel. Underneath this metal panel, he actually finds a lot of circuitry and different things like this, basically kind of implying maybe this thing is just a giant robot of some sort, or at least is being controlled by some kind of mechanism. But being the science kid, he actually takes the circuitry out, takes it along with him, and of course he wants to try to get to the bottom of things. Peter takes the red and blue suit and the stealth suit and makes a brand new suit, that of course being the red and black suit, if you didn't follow where I was going there. But he does this and takes the circuitry to kind of, you know, reverse engineer it a little bit and find out how these elementals are a thing. And he builds the circuitry into the red and black suit itself to kind of give him the upper hand and help him to understand what it is that makes these things tick. Just about the time that he has finally figured out exactly what it's going to take to stop these things, MJ actually comes in asking if he would like to take a walk. Peter, of course, tries to talk his way out of it and tries to explain to her exactly how he feels, but again, as we've seen in the trailer, this is where she stops him and says, "You're Spider-Man. It's obvious. You're never around when Spider-Man's around. Spider-Man's never around when you're around. You come to freaking Europe on vacation, and Spider-Man just happens to show up. I mean, come on, it doesn't take a rocket scientist." All in all, she of course tells him that she's fine with him being Spider-Man, but he actually explains that he doesn't know if he really wants to be Spider-Man anymore, but that he does have one last thing he has to do. To which MJ replies, "Of course, you're Spider-Man. Go get him, Tiger." So now convinced that Mysterio must be behind this in some way, or at least that something's not quite right about him, he goes off to track down Mysterio. Suddenly, his spider senses start tingling like they've never tingled before. But when he turns around, all he finds there is Nick Fury. But Spoo, why would Nick Fury set off his spider senses, one might ask? And when Peter tries to explain to Nick Fury that something's up with Mysterio, something's not quite right here, Fury just stands there, a cold stare on his face. He doesn't move, he doesn't speak, he just stands, staring back at Peter. And that's when his face begins to change. No, he was not a Skrull, but he was the Chameleon the entire time, which ties back to the shady European guys from earlier. Again, in something that is questionable as to whether or not he's from a different Earth, like Mysterio may or may not be, or if there's simply some plot point that's missing from this breakdown. Chameleon tells Spider-Man that he's going to pay for what he's done to him and his family. And that's when he is joined by not only Mysterio, but Vulture and Scorpion as well. Now, we've been hearing for quite some time that Michael Keaton was going to be reprising his role in this movie, and of course at the end of Homecoming we did see him in prison talking to the guy that would become Scorpion, as we mentioned earlier. So it definitely would make sense for these two to show up and fight alongside Chameleon and Mysterio. So this early, smaller version of the Sinister Six start kicking the crap out of Spider-Man. Now, the question I've had for quite some time is, why is Far From Home the end of Phase 3 and not Avengers Endgame? Well, that's because of what happens next. Having figured out what Mysterio has been doing with the elementals and things like that, Peter realizes that Vulture and Scorpion and you know, everybody, these are probably just illusions. So he uses the stolen circuitry from Lava Guy from earlier and changes Vulture and Scorpion into Captain America and Iron Man. Which would definitely explain why this is the last movie in this phase, because it would truly be the last appearance of Captain America and Iron Man. So Cap and Iron Man and Spider-Man start kicking the crap back out of Chameleon and Mysterio. And of course, this is the exact upper hand that Spider-Man needed to win the fight. Now, you think you cried during Avengers Endgame? Buckle up, kids. Peter gives a very heartfelt goodbye to this AI of Tony Stark, to which Tony replies that he is proud of what he's become, kind of sees him like a son, and is exactly the type of person that he would want to carry on his legacy. So after everyone grabs a box of tissues and dries their eyes, Peter heads back to New York, freeing the real Nick Fury along the way, and he brings along this new AI with him. However, once he's back at home, he's kind of looking at it, and here is an opportunity to have Tony Stark in an AI form forever. But he decides that he can't keep living in this fantasy world, and he decides to destroy the AI. In other words, Tony Stark dies. Again. And that's kind of the end of the movie. We do have a leak that tells us what the mid-credit scene is, and basically it tells us who purchased Stark Tower after they sold it during Spider-Man Homecoming. And it's the Fantastic Four! Just kidding, it's Oscorp. Again. So I guess we will get another Green Goblin, you know, for the third time. Because there's not 100 other bad guys that would be way more interesting, like Scorpion, who we get to see as an illusion. And that's it. So again, you know, this could just be complete nothing. It could just be nothing more than a rumor or someone's little made-up thing that they wanted to put out there on the internet to see how many people would fall for it. Or who knows? I mean, it could be completely 100% accurate. I guess we will just have to wait and find out. So what are your thoughts, guys? You know, would you enjoy this movie if that's what the movie was gonna be? Or do you think that that movie would be complete crap? Let me know in the comments below. Continue to comment, like, share, and most importantly, please subscribe, because we do these videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And may I add that this Friday is a very, very, very special episode that you definitely are not gonna wanna miss. And also, while you're online, hop over to www.geekycool.com for all things nerd. You've got articles, you've got videos, you've got movie reviews, you've got game reviews. Looking at you, Damon. All sorts of stuff, and it's basically the same things that we do here, just other people sharing their opinions and a whole geek community coming together as one, like we should, as one. And they're kind of sponsoring us, and well, we're sponsoring them, and it's a nice little partnership. So, you know, go and check them out. www.geekycool.com. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. We'll see you soon.